After this next question, we'll start off with Don and working our way down this side. We know public transportation has been talked about for 15 plus years. What are the next steps in ensuring public transportation is a service that will be offered in the near future?
I knew I wasn't done yet. You should have just let me kept on going. Okay, transportation issues is a reality in our community. It's again, like affordable housing, it's reality everywhere where we all need transportation. But if you look at transportation, it has to be affordable to the user. It has to be cost effective for the city and provide a level of service people can count on. That's huge. It's not feasible to have big buses driving around our small city. We need to start at the grassroots level and work from there. I believe we need to start with something, as an example, a rideshare or Uber style program. Lately, there's been a local interest in creating a shuttle service. The same as affordable housing, there must be stakeholders involved that work together. This needs to be supported by government, our city, and possible local businesses to help make sure it's affordable. As Councillor City Winkler, I can help further this much needed service. And I was also part of the Winkler Handy Van service, and the problem with that one was for having to pay a driver and all that, the cost for somebody to use a handy van exceeded their ability to pay for that. So, you know, it has to be affordable. And there are ways to do that, and I will do my best to make that a reality. Thank you.
I think we all know we need some sort of transportation in our community. Numerous studies have been done over the years, and the conclusion is almost always the same. We need it, but we just can't afford to run it. Once again, it'd be, the funding would be through the city, which is then put on the burden of the taxpayers again, but we need some sort of system. I still say, I wish we could make a deal with the school division, use their buses. They sit way too much, and I think it'd be a win-win for the school division and the community. But the school division, I don't think likes that idea, but somehow I think we need to convince that. And I also think maybe for starters, we try something different, and maybe we have taxis in our community, and I know it might be very expensive for some, but maybe we start subsidizing rides with them. I like Don's idea of local Uber style public transportation. I've used those in different communities around Canada, and it's a great system and fairly reasonably priced. Once again, tough question, but unfortunately no easy answers.
So as we all know, public transportation in any community is a challenge regardless of your size. And in my research, I've found that within the past 30 months, rising fuel costs, rider decline, violence, cleanliness, reliability issues, all contributed towards a $14 million deficit for the city of Winnipeg as of June this year. Rider decline was the biggest contributor. Selkirk has some advantages being close to Winnipeg. They offer charter services to Bomber games, senior shopping trips, to name a few things. But they've also experienced a deficit of around 90,000 so far this year. They are 50% provincially funded, and the remaining 50 is between ridership and local sponsors. Brandon ran a pilot project in 2021 exploring an on-demand style pickup, but they had to abandon it because, citing mostly technological issues, especially in the vulnerable sector where smartphones and data plans and things like that just aren't available to everyone. They did, however, discover what some of the top stop-offs were, which helps develop their programming. Portage put together a 5-month feasibility study in 2021, but as of this moment, I don't know what has happened to it. I have spoken with a local person interested in taking this project on, but haven't been able to meet prior to the event. But the next step, I think, is that we need to review everything that we've talked about so far on council and whatever information we have, explore the provincial infrastructure funding available, speak with individuals currently interested in partnering, such as businesses that might be willing to contribute, and go from there. But were I to be elected, it would be my goal to try to be part of that and put together a plan within the next 12 months. Affordable rates, a routing plan that works, sponsorship, whatever it takes, no idea would be off the table. Thank you.
For this one, I have way more questions than answers. I can assure you if I had answers, it would have been done already. What level of service is required, and what can we afford? I assume a majority of rides would be in Winkler, but I don't know. What are the main stops needed? Is it groceries? Is it healthcare services? Is it other? How many trips to Morden per day? Do we know the locations in Morden we need to get to? How many people are on each trip? How many pickup spots are needed throughout the city? How many times per day does pickup need to be available? Can we define what an affordable monthly pass for public transportation is? What size of vehicle is required to accomplish all the pickups? Does there need to be scheduled pickups or does it need to be on demand, like microtransit systems? Do we need a car co-op like the Peg City Car Co-op in Winnipeg where you join a program and you share a vehicle throughout the city? Do we think that could work here? I don't have those answers. Council will be seeking your guidance in the upcoming multimodal study that has been approved, partially funded by Winkler and partially funded by the province. Another noteworthy item, the feds are currently doing an engagement study for permanent funding for public transportation starting in 2026 to 27. That would be the last year of this next term. So the timing of this study and public engagement is very nice, as our study should provide us guidance, hopefully, for what we're trying to apply in this program.
Thank you. That is a very important question. As you have stated, and Council has talked about public transportation also, as you have stated, for many years. Councillor Siemens and I have sat on committees in the past as Mayor Harder, and we've looked at various options, and it seems to always have been that it's a very expensive venture, and so cost has been a major factor. And so that's where other orders of government have come in. Our council has been very forward-thinking in that they supported us as being involved at other orders of government lobbying. Mayor Harder was a board member of Association of Manitoba Municipalities, where we dealt with municipal issues that are related, as Karina was pointing out, that have provincial responsibilities. Council also supported me being on the board of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, where we lobby and meet with MPs from all parties for rural and remote and smaller communities. And so these are, through some of our efforts, we've been able to make changes that are beneficial for us and will help us make. So one of the big things that I'm very happy about is that the federal government is making funding, as Andrew just mentioned, is making funding available for smaller municipalities. In the past, transit funding was mostly available to larger municipalities. And so this is great. Our city staff is actually already working on ideas of how to work on some of these things. So I'm very, very optimistic that we will be able to move forward with this during this term. That's public transportation. Another form of transportation that is also important, and I'm happy to pass the mic on, I guess.
Thank you. I understand this problem. When we first moved to Winkler, we were a one-car family. My wife worked in Morden, so I walked everywhere. I mean, even walking to GVC to help coach junior varsity basketball in miserable Manitoba weather. The taxi isn't feasible at $20 round trip or $30 to the hospital. There is a $60,000 feasibility study about public transportation in Winkler scheduled for 2023. While campaigning, I learned that 40% of Regional Connections clients live north of Highway 14. So that might be a good place to pilot a project, as they already have the population density of people that need public transportation. I know Bev is very interested in wondering where City Council would put bus stops. And I think the answer is obvious. You put them where the people need them the most, north of Highway 14, close to affordable housing buildings such as Enns Courts and Southgate Drive, and at places these people would need to get to, such as Regional Connections, Central Station, grocery stores, major employers, and if we're looking regionally, even the hospital. I'd like to see stakeholder engagement on this discussion and explore the potential of the business community to be part of the solution. Maybe the city of Selkirk can provide some insight on how we can do public transportation. Half of Selkirk's transit funding is provided through partnership with the province of Manitoba, with the other half coming from generated revenues. If that's the solution, then City Council needs to help an existing nonprofit organization or incentivize a new nonprofit organization to form and deliver transit services in Winkler like they do in Selkirk. or take it on ourselves. However, one thing does remain clear. We do have a transportation issue that needs to be solved, and I'm in favor of knocking on every door until we find that solution. Thank you.
Public transportation, that's a tricky one, as we all know. More than once, something has been started, and then abandoned due to any number of issues, including rider numbers, cost per ride, who subsidizes the cost per ride, to keep it affordable, number of stops, what are the best routes for this transit vehicle to reduce the wait time? The list goes on and on. We need to make it happen, but how do we make it happen? That's going to be the big question. Thank you.
I actually don't have a whole lot that hasn't already been said here. However, what I can tell you is that with the group of people that we see all along these tables here, I would absolutely imagine that there's no reason we can't generate the brain power to figure this thing out. I know everybody in this room, as well as across this community, has been patiently waiting for the answers to this question. Whether that means we need to reach out to, more people, businesses. I know on a federal and provincial level, there are certainly grants that would help us to get the seed money to get this thing up and off the ground. But operational costs, I understand, are still significant and important. We're just going to have to get a little bit creative here, and I see no reason why we can't pull this thing off, but it is an absolute need, and it has to happen before the next term is up. It's just not negotiable anymore. Thank you.
Like putting together a puzzle, you assemble it piece by agonizing piece. For me, the first piece is ensuring that we have a transit study completed next year. Then commit to following through with a long-term transportation plan based on that study. Let's start with public transit. The federal government has opened up transit funding to rural communities, and I hope Winkler plans on taking advantage of this. A public transportation solution would require significant cash input on an annual basis. This requires time and planning. Once the forthcoming plan is completed, we need to adequately fund our public transportation system in a sustainable manner. Beyond budgets, pinning the right locations for pickups and drop-offs and setting a transit schedule in line with medical, shopping, education, and employment hours is critical. Nobody wants long waits or to be late for work or their doctor's appointment. Is improved rideshare an option? Is it worth looking further into? Paying $20 or more for a round trip to the medical appointment or shopping isn't a solution. Maybe we can incentivize carpooling and ride sharing if a free economy rideshare system isn't the answer. Do we enhance bike lanes and walkability? We're always improving in this regard as a city, but the fact is, too often our winter climate is not conducive to winter bike rides or walking. This isn't a simple 50-piece puzzle, but more like a complex 1,000-piece one. I'm looking forward to this transit study and the solutions that are generated from acting on it.
No, we all definitely recognize that there's a need for it. If there wasn't, the question wouldn't have come up, and we wouldn't have all had answers for it, or more questions ourselves in most cases. Myself, my wife and I, we're a one-vehicle family. Fortunately, because my wife stays home and takes care of our son, it works most of the time, but not every time. She's pregnant right now, and she's got medical appointments she needs to get to, and I've got work I need to do, and that's a challenge we need to navigate. For most people, or for a lot of people in Winkler, even the luxury of having a vehicle becomes a challenge. I manage properties all over Winkler, and the ones that are furthest towards the outside of Winkler are a real challenge to fill with new immigrant families. They often have several people occupying a single home. They all have different workplaces that start at different times, and they just simply can't live that far away on one vehicle. It's going to take creativity, it's going to take a fresh perspective on an old problem, and it's going to take collaboration. As mentioned, there's other communities similar to our size that have achieved it, what seems like a dream to us. So let's look to them for their wisdom and see how they've done it. I like the others here, I'm also really excited for the study that's going to come out. Hopefully it'll reveal what our needs are, unique to Winkler, and hopefully how to overcome those, or at least meet them. I think another very real option is meeting with private investors. There's a lot of entrepreneurs in town that love filling needs. Let's get together with them. Let's show the need and work with them to help provide a solution that everyone in Winkler needs. Thank you.
Thanks. I think I agree with everything that everybody's said so far. I do think it needs to be a private-public partnership, but we need to have that study completed first. We need to make sure that we're directing the funds where they need to go. I really like the idea of talking to other communities that have done this, except for Steinbach because they're Yonsei. Yeah, I told you that we took that in a year or two of Poteach. But in all seriousness, this is a real problem. I talked before about public housing or affordable housing as a linchpin for getting started in the community and getting a job. Well, if your job is on the other side of town and it's -45, it's going to be difficult to get there. So we can all agree here this is an issue. And I'm really encouraged by what I'm hearing from everybody here, and that's recognized as an issue, and we're going to tackle it. We're going to take it on. And I think in the next 4 years, you're going to see great movement on this issue. You're going to see mistakes, because that's how we learn, but you're going to see movement. And I'm really encouraged by what I'm hearing today. Thank you.
As the question states, public transportation has been talked about for a long time. I can see how this is tough to tackle. How many people would need to use it for it to be worth it? And what makes it worth it? Can we form partnerships so that it could break even financially? Or does it cost the city a lot of money? I think the next steps would be to determine what options are available and to look at the cost for them. I think the feasibility study is going to help with that, and it's a great starting point. Once that feedback is seen from the study, I feel we should send that out to the public for a survey just to see how people feel about the different options when presented with the costs. That feedback would provide valuable information when helping to determine if this is something that we can do, and if we do, how it would look. Thank you.
A 1,000 to 1,500 cars move 10 minutes in the morning, sit for 8 hours, and move 10 minutes back home. The need for transportation is real, not just for the fact that people can't move, it's for the fact that a new housing being built, we're trying to find ways to keep it affordable, trying to keep it reasonable. Smaller garages, smaller driveways, smaller spaces to park, but we still have to have 2 cars. If we can eliminate 1 car, housing is easier to be more affordable. The rest is easier. As incumbent Councillor Platt already mentioned, we were really close about 7 years ago. We had all of our large employers at the table, and they were prepared to offer us $5 per day per employee, not per employee that was going to take transit, $5 per day per employee. We had the medical center interested in holding appointments for people who would phone in and say, I'm going to take transit and I'm going to be there. This is something, at that time, we ran into rules. Those rules are different now. Mayor Harder worked very, very hard with MIT to try to get some of those rules changed. They're different today. I suspect that the vital signs study that's going to happen again next year, that the transportation study are going to show different ways to bring a motivated, engaged group like Central Station to the table, who are prepared to partner with the city to make it happen. But we all need to recognize that there is not a transportation system out there, a public transportation system, that is cash flow positive. There will be a cost, but I believe it's time that we're open to the idea of paying that cost.
The 2 issues we've talked about are so multifaceted that 2 minutes doesn't do it any justice, and that's why I'm still hoping that Henry will engage me in a more meaningful debate and dialogue over these issues and mine a little deeper into them, because they need to be mined deeper into. Politicians talk about what business people do, and the entrepreneur inside of me says that this is achievable at an affordable level by simply delving into the problem. What's the demand in the community? We have yet to measure that. By putting up a system that we can afford on a trial basis, we'll know very quickly what the demand in the community is, And the technologies that flow from platforms like Uber are not proprietary. They exist right here in Winkler, and it's extremely affordable to do on a trial basis. That's what an entrepreneur does. He plans the work, he works the plan, and measures the results. We can do this.
Thank you. We have one more question, which only requires 1 minute of an answer, please. So, as you serve the community in various ways on boards, committee, or other form of leadership, which is one thing you have learned that has impacted your life or changed the way you interact with people around you?
As a candidate for mayor, I think it's important that we cast vision. That vision has to rise as high as 30,000 feet to be able to explore the options and then bring it down to ground floor level where we can put meaningful, practical solutions in place. Leadership is not for everybody, it's for a few. And those that are called need to rise to the occasion and inspire and encourage others to do what they don't think they can do until we give them that opportunity and encourage them to the point where they find out that they're able to do far more than they otherwise believed they could do.
To answer the question, what I've found is it blows me away every single day how many passionate, committed people are in this community who are ready to serve, who are willing to serve, who want to make a difference. It doesn't matter what committee I sit on, it doesn't matter what organization I work with, I run into day after day people who love this community, people who want to help this community, people who go out of their way to give of their time, their energy, their money to improve this community. We are the beneficiaries of it in this beautiful building here today, financially contributed to by many different people, the volunteers that show up here week after week after week. It's impossible to fully express how lucky we are in this community to have that level of people, and it blows me away every day.
One thing I've learned, to sort of echo what Henry said, we do have a lot of awesome people in the city. We can see that in many, many different avenues. But I think one thing that sometimes gets missed is we need to listen. These people have good opinions, whether it's individuals, groups, or different organizations all over the city. We need to listen. What are the issues? What are the ideas? And what can we do to increase, the morale of the city? And what's going to make us happier overall? Thank you.
Thanks. So I've been a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters locally. I'm looking at Gail because we worked together for several years in trying to bring some movement and moving the needle with that organization. We saw a lot of great triumphs and great successes, but at the same time, it was also really heartbreaking because we weren't able to achieve our ultimate goal of finding every child that needs a mentor to work with. What it spoke to me was, while we have done so much, there's still so much to do. And it's not a race where there's a finish line, it continues. So we all need to continue down these paths. It impacted me greatly and it shaped the way I interact with folks. And I hope that all of you get a chance to serve in some capacity in the community, and that the community also gives back to you. Thanks.
Well, as I said in my introduction speech on Monday, I truly believe that Winkler is the greatest city in Canada. It's not the parks or the recreational facilities or the economy, although all those things are great and probably much better here than in most places. It's similar to what Henry said, it's the people. The people of Winkler are beautiful people. They're ready to help one another, they're ready to love one another. The success of this facility is a shining example of that. In the last couple of years, it's been tough. There's been a lot of fighting, but I think most of that fighting comes out of a desire to get back to that Winkler that we all know and love. And so that's something I'm passionate about if I'm elected, is let's stop fighting, let's go out from behind our keyboards and let's learn to love each other again. Because I think Winkler is great at it. Thank you.
there's a saying, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. I've learned to care. And that's followed by the golden rule. Treat others the way you want to be treated. This is something I emphasized Monday and today, and I will probably continue to emphasize. Treating others the way you want to be treated, respect, that goes a long way. And lastly, again, I'm regurgitating what I said Monday, just meeting people where they are. It doesn't have to be a formal agenda. Just give of yourself, listen, and be engaged.
One of the things that I've learned probably the most over my time serving the Chamber of Commerce with that board is just the overall collaborative spirit and perseverance that this community has. Yes, we went through some challenges over the last few years and some people got their feelings hurt. But that being said, I've also seen people step up and really tackle a lot of issues and come forward with positive attitudes as well. And, you know, as much as there may be some residual effects, I think that, you know, a little bit of patience that we can exercise and the openness to continue to share ideas with each other and not jump down each other's throats if we don't necessarily agree, is our greatest strength in this community. Thank you.
What have I learned by serving? I've been a rep for a church at Salem for the past 3 years, and what I have learned is that Salem is not a place that the seniors go to die. It's a place where they go to live out the rest of their lives. It's their home. And I am just amazed at how this community steps up above and beyond the government dollars, just like here at Central Station, to make something happen, something real. These people are real and they have families, they need visitors. The last 2 years have been really, really tough on them, but they keep slugging forward and they're doing well. We had a meeting on Monday and things are looking up. We're looking at doing another phase of renovations and hoping that the government dollars and of course the community again will step up and be wonderful. We have a great place to live. Thank you.
Thanks. From serving as the chair, excuse me, on our church and the chair at our kids' PAC, I've learned a couple of things, and I've learned that speaking creates buy-in, but listening creates believe-in. And it's for the reason of listening and creating believe-in that our church was able to purchase the house directly south to us in the midst of this COVID pandemic. Because as a leadership team, we listened at our AGM and learned what the hearts of the people were in our church, and it was for some future ministry. Unknowing what that future ministry would be, or even unknowing what we would do with the house, through virtual meetings, listening to our congregation, we went forward and we purchased the house. We thought we might actually rent it out to some Crankers employees, but we're certainly fortunate enough that Teen Challenge contacted us and said that they were looking for a rental house, and we've been able to partner with them since. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not an eloquent speaker like Henry, so I'd like you to copy and paste Henry's comments to give me that extra time and just add a couple other little things. I find that people in Winkler care a lot. We feel deeply, and one-on-one we have good conversations, we appreciate each other, and we are kind. We are very generous. I see that all the time with money, as well as generous with our time. And just another thing that came to my mind last night, I came home from a fire call at 2 a.m. this morning and had a 7 o'clock meeting this morning after that. But we had a family make dinner for the firefighters, which happened during the call. It was a kind of an unfortunate situation. But we had spent a number of days last year at a bale fire for them, and they made dinner for us. That's just wonderful.
One thing I've learned is how jealous other communities are of us. And it's because our people, specifically this place. Central Station is vital to our community, and I can't thank the silent business investors enough for starting this place and helping start this place, and for the people involved in making this place what it is. and how they take care of our people and our citizens is huge.
Yeah, I would echo Andrew's statements there as well, and I know I have family all over North America, so when they hear and see some of the things that go on here, and they look at what they struggle with there, even simple things like the handicap accessibility on sidewalk corners. Actually, it was because of that here that one of my wife's best friends who has polio has initiated in her hometown in Mexico, and they now are putting those kinds of things in as well. So we are influenced not just locally, but almost globally. But one thing I've also learned is that when you listen and when you put yourself out there as being available, it's amazing what kind of things you can involve yourself in and become a part of, and therefore influence change in whatever it is that you're working on. Thank you.
What I've learned from serving the community and my family, God gave us 2 years and 1 ton for a reason, and I think my wife might think I might have 2 tons in 1 year, but listen to the people. My role is when I worked for real estate, we had an opportunity to meet lots of wonderful people. There's a lot of hurting people in this community, and there's a lot of passionate and giving people in this community. And that's what makes this community so great. And I just love talking about it to people when we travel, because it is an awesome, awesome place to live. And like I say, there's lots of hurt, but there's lots of people that will pour lots of joy on people. So anyways, proud to be part of it.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, I've lived in this community for 50 years. Basically, I wasn't born here. I was born in Morton, but after 4 years, we moved to Winkler. I grew up with pretty well everybody that when I was growing up, I could say, oh, so-and-so lives here, so-and-so lives here. And we were a small community, probably about 2,500 at that time. And everybody knew everybody. And families were very strong. What we would do is, or what would happen is that if one family was hurting, we all came to them. And if they were celebrating, we all got together to celebrate. And as we go through the generations, that continues from what we've learned in the past. And that's what I've learned serving here, is that we are a very generous community. Thank you.
So in closing, we want to know, as an elected city council member, what will you do as an elected city council member to connect with and amplify the voices of those affected by injustice, inequality, and poverty? What will you do as an elected city council member to connect with and amplify the voices of those affected by injustice, inequality, and poverty?
I won't say excellent question, because we all would agree that is a good question. I think the council has a responsibility to be as transparent and as available to its community as possible. I advocate for regularly scheduled town hall meetings. As the mayor of Winkler, I will be responsible for a 24-hour response to any inquiries that come directly to me. We can be better connected with our community, and when we're connected, we understand the needs, we understand the wants, the desires, the dreams that now encapsulate our new slogan, dream, build, and live in Winkler. So my point is connectivity through our council, individually, and as a mayor to its people. You will have direct access to me at all times.
I think the most important thing we have to do is to be prepared to listen, to be available to listen, to be available to talk to people who disagree with us respectfully, because people will disagree with you. We have to show respect to the situation that people are in, recognizing that in any particular situation, whether it's an immigrant or a marginalized person, there, but for the grace of God, go I. When we recognize that and we sit and listen respectfully listen, we are going to be okay. The single biggest thing that I offer is that I'm prepared to be a listener and to hear what the concern is before providing an answer.
If elected council, I would also make myself available. It's been a lot of fun campaigning, hearing what people have for ideas, the struggles they have, the successes, all the challenges, and I would continue. I would want to be available. I want to hear what people have to say and bring their ideas forward. One person or a million people doesn't matter. We need to look at what people are saying to see what would work for them and what would make them happier and what would make us an even better city than we already are. Thank you.
Thanks. I think one mistake we need to avoid as future council members is assuming we know all the answers, because we don't. And the only way we can get to those answers is through open dialogue, being present, being visible, and being accountable. So I think you can count on that moving forward, but I think really we can't assume we know the answers because we haven't really asked the questions of the individuals. So that's the challenge ahead of us over the next 4 years, is to make sure we're asking the right questions, we're making ourselves available, and then we're accountable to the folks that put us in that position. Thanks.
Well, I think the best way to get to know somebody is to break bread with them. That includes the evening meals that happen here, but it also includes something that my wife and I love to do as often as we get the opportunity to. And that's invite people into our home, get to know them. When you sit down with people and you eat a meal with them, you get to know them in a way that just a casual chat on the street just doesn't cut it. There's something about getting together and eating some food, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it connects people. And so my goal, whether I'm a councilman or not, is to continue to get to know people in our community and in my church, and have them over, learn who they are, what they need, and how I as an individual, or Lord willing, a council member, can better address that need. Thank you.
I feel it was actually late today. For that reason, I'll segue that right into my answer. Caring, listening, and being accessible. On my way here today, my neighbor stopped me. She was out walking her dog and just wanted to bring her concerns to me as a victim of past abuse. I could have just dismissed it and said, sorry, I've got an 11:30 I need to get to. But it's important. She wanted me to take that time, and I firmly believe in that if I'm not accessible, if I don't care, if I'm not willing to listen, then I shouldn't be at this table.
I would actually like to address this as well, just in a very similar fashion. However, having come from being one of the marginalized population that we're referring to, I can tell you that being available is one thing, being accessible and approachable is another. And that is one of the things that I would like to focus on. Meeting people wherever they're at, regardless of circumstances, regardless of what it is that they need to want to talk about, etc. And that would be one of my biggest priorities, to continue to do that.
Oops, I didn't have my yellow card up, but I want to say something anyway. I wish all the questions would have been this easy. This one's simple. We have to make sure that the poor and downtrodden are looked after. That is biblical. It's that simple.
Thanks. I could sit here and tell you what I would do, but it means nothing if I haven't done anything already. So I've made myself available to those that have suffered injustice and the marginalized. That's why I spent 7 years working at the bunker, going with young people to court as they went through different cases. So I worked with the Youth Justice Committee to put on an event that you maybe remember, maybe don't, and it was when Serge Leclerc was here. So I was involved with the Fresh Start program. It was an alternative education program, and got invited to some students' graduations by the student that maybe wouldn't otherwise graduate. And so the real answer is to listen to the voices on the margins and the marginalized. That's why I campaigned north of Highway 14, knowing that 40% of regional connections clients lived there, because I didn't just want to spend time in the affluent communities. These are all Winkler citizens. They all deserve to be heard, respected, and listened to. Thanks.
Thank you. I am going to say thank you to Karina for the challenge that she had to us now about when there's a situation that we're talking about, look for voices that aren't at the table. She has demonstrated that as well, so it's a good challenge. And so I think for me it's important to actively look for these, seek out the people and seek to understand them and actually listen. And I think it's important not to speak for them, but to be their voice, rather. I learned a lot of this before I moved to Winkler when I volunteered with MCC at Rossbrook House, which is a drop-in center in downtown Winnipeg, where a lot of the people are very disadvantaged. A lot of kids spend 24 hours a day at the drop-in center, and you learned their challenges and so on. So that was a good learning lesson for me as well. Thank you.
Like Mike said, when you're on council, people talk to you often. And I can't tell you how many times my kids tell me when I get in the truck, why do you always have to talk to everybody? And that's kind of how it goes. So hopefully everyone up here understands and expects that. But yes, we need to listen. We need to listen to everybody. I feel we need to encourage people to give ideas. And I'd encourage people to speak up too. Don't hold it in. You gotta say something. You have to speak up. I tell it to my wife. I tell it to my kids. You know, people won't know what you're looking for unless you tell them. You can't expect people to just know. You need to talk to them. I will also participate as much as I can, which can be difficult when you work full time. But I have 2 kids that and a wife that I look after, so that I still need to work. But opportunities such as the poverty simulator that Central Station is putting on, I'm hoping to participate in something like that.
Yeah, I can't really say anything more than what's been said already, but just the idea of the possibility of serving on council, it's not about affluence, it's not about position, it's not about, oh, look at me. It's about how can I serve, and being there, and just, I've discovered already in just the wanderings around and going uptown and talking to people that just the notion that you're actually looking at a position like this, they automatically start to talk to you about ideas. And I think that's the general consensus around this table. So you have to be there for them, be willing to listen to them, and work together to provide answers. And just thank you for this opportunity to run.
If I get elected, I'd say, all I say is I will be approachable. I love good dialogue, and I do promise to use both my ears. Thank you.
What I've learned from this is that we as city leaders, we have members of our council that sit on many boards, Central Station, Winkler Family Resource, different boards that provide leadership and help with leadership and creativity. And there's a reason why we have that, why we have people on that board is for, because we all have a genuine concern of our community. And one thing that I want to emphasize is that for me, I'm an advocate for the underprivileged, the marginalized people, because I've learned that they all have a heart, they all have a soul, God has made them. And whatever I can do, at least to brighten up their day, I will do that. And that's what my continued role on council will be. Thank you.
We would like to thank all the candidates for taking time to come today to the forum here at Central Station, and we encourage everyone to vote. And